Hey gang, I'm Carl Cheney and this is episode 44 of the CBD Source podcast. Happy Friday! This is the CBD Source podcast, your source for all things CBD. Coming up on the show today, we've got a jam-packed episode for you. We're going to have a ton of fun exploring, learning about, and sampling some minor cannabinoids you may never have heard of. You'll hear me be introduced to Delta 8 THCV for the first time by Alyssa Riccio from California Cannabinoids, as I became only the 13th person in the history of planet Earth to tink it. You'll hear me tink that live on the show and my immediate reaction. And CBD gang, before we go any further, we here at CBD Source and the CBD Source podcast have a huge announcement to make. Drumroll, please. Wait for it. We've just launched our own hemp flower brand. Our brand is called Catskill Hemp Co. Catskill Hemp Co. is coming out of the gate with 3 kick-ass hemp strains: Hawaiian Haze, Sour Space Candy, and CBG. Today we'll have a great chat with our professional licensed hemp handler, Bill Russell, as he talks with us about CBG, CBDP, CBD, THCP, and CBDP, and why our Catskill Hemp Co. top shelf flower is a cut above the rest. In this podcast, we mostly focus on cannabidiol, CBD, and Delta-9 tetrahydrocannabinol, or THC. But today we'll be opening our lens a little bit wider. We'll be talking about and experimenting with some minor cannabinoids that don't get enough love around here, as well as some recently discovered new cannabinoids. Well, they're new to us, but they've most likely existed for thousands, if not millions of years. But our biggest deep dive will be into the mother of all cannabinoids, cannabidiol. CBG is commonly referred to as the mother of all cannabinoids because it's the precursor to all of our favorite cannabinoids. As the cannabis plant grows from seed to full maturity, during the early stages of its growth, it produces only CBG. When the plant hits sexual maturity, CBG, or more accurately CBGA, cannabidiolic acid, evolves into all of the acid forms of the cannabinoids we know and love, such as CBDA, which is CBD, THCA, which is the acid form of THC, CBCA is the acid form of CBC, and so on and on and on. But first, not everyone might be up to speed with what a cannabinoid even is. Well, CBD gang, we produce cannabinoids naturally. Your body, my body, the guy walking his dog down your street, even the dog that's taking a shit on your yard every week. We all produce them, and so does cannabis. The endogenous cannabinoids your body produces are called endocannabinoids, while the cannabinoids that hemp or marijuana produce are called phytocannabinoids, because they're made by plants. But they work with the same 2 receptors in our bodies that our own endocannabinoids do, but better. As of this recording, there are upwards of 113 phytocannabinoids found in cannabis, and we're discovering new ones all the time. We all learned about the body's various systems in school: the circulatory system, the digestive system, the endocrine system, the nervous system, the muscular system, the immune system, and so on. But up until recently, most of us have never heard about the endocannabinoid system, or ECS, but we all have one. And we aren't alone, gang. All animals, including vertebrates and invertebrates, have been found to have an ECS. This is why your cats, dogs, and horses can also experience the benefits of CBD. And as the research and science progresses, we will undoubtedly discover not only more cannabinoids, but also new and exciting things that these cannabinoids can do for us, especially when they're consumed in combination with other cannabinoids, terpenes, flavonoids, and oils. If, like me, you never learned about this system in high school science, don't be shocked. It was only discovered in the 1980s. We found that the ECS is crucial to helping keep our bodies in homeostasis. It's basically like a monitoring system for all of our systems. When something in your body is out of whack, your body activates the endocannabinoid system to correct it and even it out. The funny thing about new discoveries is that it's not like prior to 1980 we didn't have endocannabinoid systems built in. We always did. We just didn't know it was there. In 2600 BC, ancient Chinese herbalists were using cannabis to treat all sorts of physical, psychological, and emotional issues. They knew that there was something in the plant and the way it interacted with our bodies. They just didn't know the science behind it on a molecular level because our technology wasn't advanced enough yet. The endocannabinoid system has two sets of receptors that cannabinoids can bind to, the CB1 and CB2 receptors. The CB1 receptors are located throughout your nervous system, primarily in the brain and the nerves of the spinal cord, while the CB2 receptors are in the peripheral nervous system, the nerves in your arms, legs, digestive system, and immune system. THC mostly interacts with your CB1 receptors, while CBD interacts more with the CB2 receptors. It's through the CB1 and CB2 that the endocannabinoid system helps regulate a lot of important functions, such as appetite, digestion, immune function, inflammation, mood, sleep, reproduction, motor control, temperature regulation, memory, pleasure, and pain. So now that I've set the stage for some of what we're going to be learning in the next 2 episodes, let's cannabinoid right into it, gang. Let's give a big CBD Source podcast welcome to a professional licensed hemp handler and our liaison with RDSP Farms, the source of Catskill Hemp Company's flower products, Bill Russell.
Gang, you're listening to the CBD Source podcast.
Bill, it's so great to finally have you on the show. I want to talk to you, in depth about these minor cannabinoids, but we're going to start with CBG because for some reason, maybe you can help enlighten me. Why is CBG so hot right now?
Because of all of the regulatory changes coming down the pipeline, but also because as a novel cannabinoid, CBG has just a myriad of health benefits. It's been discussed at length in a number of studies that have come out in the past 20 or 30 years. The first one that I'm aware of was in 1990, and it was a study on glaucoma and intraocular pressure, and it found that it had a palliative effect. It reduced intraocular pressure much in the same way that delta-9 THC has been found to reduce intraocular pressure and therefore help with glaucoma and vision loss.
So this is CBG is doing that too. You're saying it's a totally different cannabinoid than THC. It's legal and it's doing that. That's just one of the things that it does. I'm kind of just learning about CBG because we've been focused on CBD so much. What does CBG stand for?
CBG is cannabigerol, CBGA being the acidic precursor, cannabigerolic acid. You can think of CBGA as think of it like the stem cell cannabinoid. So the plant cannabis, it only produces CBGA until it gets into sexual maturity. So its flowering stage. It then uses enzymatic processes, so produces enzymes that convert the CBGA into other cannabinoids that its genetics or its environment tells it that it needs. And we're not entirely sure of the mechanisms. Again, century of prohibition has kind of stifled our ability to study the plant. But we found that CBGA is vitally important in regulating a number of internal processes in the plant. And to be honest with you, other than a very sophomoric understanding of the biochemistry behind it, you won't really find very many people that are willing to speak on the subject because it's just there's just too many unknowns. But there is evidence to support claims that it may have positive effects on intraocular pressure, on appetite stimulation for, let's say, a cancer patient that's having a hard time with chemo and everything else going on, really eating anything or keeping any food down.
So that's the munchies. It's giving you munchies like THC, sort of.
It's sort of. I'm not sure. I'm not sure of the mechanism behind it, whether it's similar to delta-9, but I think it was a 2008 study. I pull these studies from PubMed, the National Institute of Health. They discuss testing that they've done on basically lab rats, pre-satiated, meaning they've already been fed. So in an attempt to stimulate their appetite, they're given CBG, and there is evidence to support that it does increase their appetite.
Oh, that's cool. So that's sort of the opposite of what CBD does, right? CBD does the opposite. It makes you not have those munchies. It makes you not super hungry, right?
Right, and it's an antagonist, delta-9 THC antagonist, if I'm not mistaken. So it does have kind of the opposite effect, and also prevents you from feeling the euphoria associated with delta-9 consumption. A lot of medical marijuana finished products are coming out with 1-to-1 ratios, and I think as the market and as we as a society progress toward more openness and a greater understanding of this plant, we'll see more of that evenly balanced formulation being used in products. Because of this, I'm sure you speak at length in other episodes and in your podcast about the entourage effect.
Yeah, and I actually love a 1-to-1. I think that's a great combination when that becomes legal, and we can do that in not just for medicinal, but like a recreational 1-to-1 is a really great type of a feeling. It's like, for me, it makes me really stimulated to write, makes me really thinky, more creative, able to just like free flow ideas for some reason. It's just that entourage effect for me personally. That's how it kind of affects me. But I have found that if I was, say, overstimulated with THC, that if I threw a bunch of CBD on it, it would tamper it down. It's sort of like it would work sort of like a landing gear or something for someone who took too much THC that didn't want to be that high, that kind of thing. But so you're saying CBG might, what kind of effects does CBG do as far as like how it would resemble a CBD, like a CBG compared to a CBD? Because we're just learning about this cannabinoid, so I want to like see, if someone were to buy, if they were to go to a CBD source location or catskillhempco.com and want to buy some CBG as opposed to some of our CBD strains, which we have, 2 so far, CBD strains, like what would the different benefits be, in relation to CBG compared to CBD?
In terms of what CBG can offer, we're limited to a few studies, some of which I mentioned. Some of the more recent studies that came out since the 2014 Hemp Act discussed, I think one addressed, it was colorectal cancer. Another one discussed the neuroprotective properties of CBGA, so it has to do with the cannabinoids' affinity for the endocannabinoid system and its various receptors. The reason that delta-9 has its psychoactive effect is because of its affinity with the CB1 receptor, which is in our brains predominantly. Mm-hmm. So there's actually a new cannabinoid that was described in a very recent article. I think it was either last year, the end of last year, even early this year, that discussed THCP and CBDP. And THCP is said to be, I think they said 30 or 33 times more psychoactive than delta-9 THC because of its greater affinity, 30 times the affinity with the CB1 receptor.
That's amazing.
Right. So in theory, if you had 1% THCP in your sample, you would have the same psychoactive effect as the same size sample with 30% delta-9, which is mind-boggling.
Yeah, that is mind-boggling. Also, where can we get our hands on this?
I'd wait to see what some of the farmers with combination licenses, the Combi Farm processors, come out with. Everybody's trying to play it safe. For right now, the only cannabinoid of concern, federally anyway, is delta-9 THC. And if you look just in New York State, delta-9 THC is the only consideration for regulatory purposes. They completely disregard the acidic precursor to delta-9 THC, which is THCA.
Right.
That's kind of funny because if you look at a market like Massachusetts or tons of other states that have fully functional recreational marijuana markets, they go by a total THC limit for compliance. So it's a post-decarboxylation total. So they take the THCA and basically add it to the delta-9 percentage when determining whether or not it's above that 0.3% limit. New York just issued, probably within a couple of weeks, just issued their New York Ag and Markets Department just issued a guidance document that reiterates they simply don't care about THCA, which is interesting because if you talk to a lawyer, you talk to somebody in the hemp industry, they'll confirm for you that it pretty much means because the plant doesn't produce delta-9 THC naturally, it produces THCA, that everything is hemp until you smoke it. But that's a conversation for another episode, I think.
This segment of the CBD Source podcast is brought to you by
Catskill Hemp Co. Our podcast is based in Rock Hill, New York, in the high rocky peaks of the Catskill Mountains. We're proud to finally be able to offer our own brand of top-shelf terpene-rich CBD and CBG flower. You can purchase Catskill Hemp Co. brand flower at any of our 56, soon-to-be 57, CBD Source locations all over the Catskill Mountains and beyond. You can find a CBD Source location nearest you on cbdsourcecenter.com. If you're a proprietor of a retail shop that sells CBD or CBG products and would like to carry Catskill Hemp Co.'s 3 strains of top-shelf smokable hemp flower, Hawaiian Haze, Sour Space Candy, or CBG, you can buy directly from us wholesale. Just go to catskillhempco.com and scroll down to the bottom. While you're there, you can also read our lab results, but prepare to be amazed. By supporting our brands, you're helping to support this show, so thank you in advance, gang, and the flower is insane.
We're back with more of the CBD Source podcast. Here's your host, Cull.
So you were saying that something's happening in 2021. The laws are going to change, and a lot of things are going to show up hot. What does that mean? Tell us what that's about and what's changing exactly.
So let's say you're a hemp farmer. And you want to, we're approaching the time where you're going to put seeds in the ground, or clones or whatever you do. Currently, as a farmer, compliance with total THC is required by USDA. So from a farming standpoint, the changes have already been made. However, if the government were to say, all right, everybody in the hemp industry, you got to go total T today, that means that all of the harvests, or the vast majority thereof, for 2019 would be non-compliant. And if you tell, an infant industry and members of that infant industry that everything they grew, everything they produced is now, a criminal possession charge and they have to destroy it, they're going to go belly up and we're going to destroy our industry. So,
right.
So now we have, as members of the hemp industry, this calendar year to sell out of delta-9 compliant, but total THC non-compliant flower. But January 1st, 2021, that changes for everybody. And if you are over 0.3% total, then you're selling marijuana. So some of these high quality CBD strains, people have been getting used to 20 plus CBD now. Mm-hmm. And some of our strains, one of them is 27%. So we're simply not going to see that in strains anymore because it won't be compliant unless the 0.3% threshold goes up to, ideally, I would say 1%, but at least 0.5%. We're going to have a lower quality flower on our hands for CBD. Yeah. And a lot of people are going to be switching to CBG flower, which is, from a scientific standpoint, it just simply doesn't produce that much THC. And there are new strains, like a company called Altera is promoting a strain called Panacea, and that is up to 18% CBG and non-detectable levels of total THC. They're reporting 0.00%, which is rather incredible.
Yeah.
They're a genetics company in Spain.
Our CBG that we sell, the Catskill Hemp Co. CBG, what are some of the levels in that?
Total T is about, it's about 1/5%. I think it's 0.21, 0.22, I think. I'll have to pull the COA, but it's far under the 0.3% total T limit. So even after the end of this calendar year, our Catskill Hemp's CBG strain will still be compliant.
So how does it work? If it's like it's the precursor to the other cannabinoids, it's growing, all hemp has CBG until it hits maturity, and then it turns into these other cannabinoids. Every, the 113 plus, 115 plus cannabinoids, possibly. So how do we get the CBG in such a high amount? Do we kill the plant early, like just before it hits like sexual maturity, or how exactly are we getting all this CBG out of a plant?
So if you were to pull it before the flip, so to speak, and then, well, maybe that's an improper terminology. It's kind of an indoor grower term. If you pull it in its veg state before it hits sexual maturity, you're not going to find any buds. So these strains, and I'm not sure of this, but if you ask me, it's likely that these strains don't produce the enzymes that convert the CBG into the other cannabinoids until very late in the flowering stage. So it's not that they are pulled early as much as the plant genetics itself don't permit the conversion of the stem cell cannabinoid CBG or CBGA, more specifically, into the other cannabinoids that we've been discussing: CBD, CBC, and THCA.
Right. Wow. Okay. Now I understand. So it's just a plant that just is kind of delayed in that switch over completely. It's already got the buds and it's just jam packed full of CBG, and it's ready to switch over fully. And that's when we harvest. Right.
And again, I have at best a sophomoric understanding of the biochemistry behind it, right. But I know that it's an enzymatic reaction, and that something in the plant's genetics or its expression thereof limits its ability to either produce the enzymes or to activate them, which converts CBG into the other cannabinoids that we're more familiar with.
So the CBG level is very high in our CBG strains specifically. There's a lot of other CBG strains on the market, or is it's like a fledgling strain? Like, not many people are selling it so far, right? It's kind of pretty new to the market.
Correct. Maybe 40 some odd farms grew it last year. That number has probably quintupled. It depends on where you look. East Coast farmers aren't really focusing on those niche markets because it's it's taken a little longer for us on the East Coast, probably because of the climate, but to catch up with the guys on the West. But that's just kind of how the cannabis game has gone the past couple decades.
Right. That's why we're getting it from Oregon, because we can't grow it here yet totally. I mean, we haven't really developed it totally out yet in New York. I mean, our climate is totally different than out there. We'll get there, though. We're working on it. We're working on it. As far as the CBD strains that we have, the sour
space candy,
and the Hawaiian haze,
yep.
Are they significantly high in CBD? I know they are, right? And they also have some pretty high THCA levels, right?
So they in 2021 would be considered marijuana, but currently they are hemp because New York does not pay attention to the THCA levels. Having said that, they are, by the definitions in their own states, hot hemp. They are high in terms of total THC requirements, But again, we're not at that regulatory stage yet. Under 1% THCA. So if you're to put it in perspective, some of the older connoisseurs that might remember partaking in pre-90s marijuana, in the 70s, we had average percentages of 3 and 4%,
Right.
Which is, a tenth. Well, like a tenth of what we have now in some of the medical marijuana strains,
right.
Like 30 plus.
Like Bruce Banner or
Chiquita
something.
Banana hit 37.
Would you say Chiquita
Right.
Banana's 37%?
Yeah, I've heard. I've heard some wild numbers.
Wow.
But yeah, I've personally smoked a number of strains over 30%. I'm not convinced that Delta 9 THC is the end all be all cannabinoid. I think it's just I think it's just our ignorance as a society, and the government specifically. Their ignorance and their willful ignorance up until this point has caused us to focus on a cannabinoid that very well might be less significant or insignificant, even just decades down the line. But that's kind of a consequence of suppressing research for such a long period of time.
Yeah.
And honestly, just from a political standpoint, when the government seeks to restrict the free exchange of information or the ability to research, I think that should throw up a whole bunch of red flags. And it always has for me.
We're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back with more from the CBD Source podcast.
The gang's all here. The CBD gang. Give the show a call at 1-833-223-4264. That's 1-833-CBD-GANG.
All right, so what's your name and what is this company?
So my name's Alyssa, and this is Doug's Varin. The parent company is California Cannabinoids.
Cool.
So California Cannabinoids creates rare bulk cannabinoids that we then sell to brands, and we can also white label products. And then Doug's Varin is our line of high THCV products.
Nice. So THCV is like a minor cannabinoid that I don't know much about at all. Can you tell me a little bit about this cannabinoid that not many people probably have experienced, at least in any kind of dose?
Yeah, it's tetrahydrocannabinoid varin. So it's a varin, so it's a different type of molecule. And it works on the same receptor as THC.
Mm-hmm.
But what kind of happens is if THC opens the door, THCV kind of closes it.
Oh, okay.
So munchies that you get from THCV kind of helps to regulate those.
Oh, nice.
The down feeling that you might get from THCV helps uplift. So it's kind of the plant's answer for ADD and kind of like the plant version of Adderall. It gives you focus, energy, and helps to regulate your blood sugar.
Nice. So these bottles, let me see what's in them. 150 milligrams of THCV, 150 milligrams of THC. I guess that's Delta 9 THC?
That's
Delta 8 THC.
THCV. So we actually have that. And literally maybe 12 other people in the world have ever tried it. It is that rare.
Wow.
Yeah.
Can we try it here on the show? Yeah?
Maybe.
It's legal here.
Personal supply. I could share my personal
Oh,
supply.
yeah. I would
you.
love to be one of those 12 people on Earth to have tried it and tell the gang back listening what it's like.
CBN is another amazing one. So Delta 8 THC and CBN together helps with a sedative feel, but it doesn't give you that couch lock that caryophyllene heavy indica does.
Mm-hmm.
So what it does is helps to kind of calm your mind and relax you.
Okay.
And so it helps to promote sleep instead of like knocking you out like a heavy indica does.
We were just talking with Mike Robinson last episode. He just did a lecture at CBDIO, and he was talking about how he takes his old cannabis and leaves it out until it almost rots, and it starts to turn into CBN, right?
Yep.
Yeah. It like evolves.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's why if, you have, I've found cannabis from like 10 years ago before, and you smoke it and you still feel something because there's some THC in there, but there's also CBN.
Is it mostly CBN at that point, or?
It would depend on how it's stored. I would still say that there's a good amount of THC in there. It lasts pretty well.
Okay.
Yeah. But you're definitely feeling some of that CBN.
Right. There's no like born on date because it's still going to be effective.
Like
in
the mountains turn blue, so it's good.
The pot leaf stops being green or something after a while.
That would be a good one.
Oh shit, we're inventing
Just
stuff
came
here.
up with a new sticker to put outside your package.
So let's give this a shot. Can we do a tink of it? We call it one dropper a tink because it's tincture.
Yeah.
Like taking a drink, you're doing a
Taking
tink.
a tink. I like that. I don't drink
That's what we call it
alcohol,
on the
so
show.
That's
yeah.
perfect. Cool. Yeah. Which one did you want to try? So this one is the only one we don't have at the show, but we have our sleep promoting one. We have the Delta 8. This is the one that literally less than a dozen people. It has only been created in a lab for one specific study before, and we created it 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, I would definitely want to try that one. It says crave away.
It actually, so Delta 8 THCV in rats has shown it can be considered a smoking cessation product. So it helps to regulate the center of your brain. That's sort of the reward center. And in rats, it has been shown to help them get off nicotine.
That's awesome. All those smoking rats.
Do they have little joints?
Yeah, exactly. Or little
crutches?
Little cigarette packs. Little teeny vape mods.
Little tiny baby paxes for the rats.
Right.
Okay, that sounds cute.
What is this? A mod for mice? Gang, we're gonna try this. I've never even heard of this. Should I be doing this?
Yes. All you, buddy. So really, less than probably a dozen people, like a dozen humans, have probably taken this tincture before. It's that rare.
That's amazing. Like, so what percentage is it in a plant? Like, if you were to break it down.
Oh, Delta 8 THCV, almost non-existent. It's something that is created through a reaction. So it's a little Breaking Bad chemistry fun.
Wow.
But it is in the plant.
This is a cannabinoid not many people have tried.
No, this is like a Walter White cannabinoid.
Wow. I can't wait.
All right, here you go.
Okay, this is a bristling nobody's experienced. Very cool. The bristling. Get this on camera because we're making history here. All right.
Put it under your tongue, hold it for about 20 seconds, and then you can swallow.
Okay,
All
cool.
of it.
I'm doing it.
Take a tank.
Whoa, the taste on that.
And it's a lychee alcohol, and alcohol really, it's a small percentage. It's less than 10%. It's in MCT, but alcohol really helps the absorption rate. It really, tincture, the true meaning of a tincture is alcohol based. That's what it's been in alchemy in all of time. But so it really helps too.
Wow. It's a good taste too. It is a really interesting taste.
Yeah.
All right, should I swallow it now?
Yeah, you can swallow, yeah.
Cool. Wow. I feel like I'm part of the privileged few.
You really are.
Very
We let you into the inner circle.
That's so cool. So how can people get this kind of stuff from you?
So right now we're only in California. We are just starting to do some licensing contracts in other states. We will be moving into other states, but right now it's licensed dispensaries in California.
Very cool.
It's in the system.
Doug's Varin, THCV. Very cool. Thank you so much. What's your name again?
Thank you, Alyssa.
Alyssa, thank you for walking us through this and letting me try it. Wow, very cool. Awesome.
The CBD Source podcast resumes now with your host, Cole Cheney. Take it away, Cole.
Let's talk about Catskill Hemp Co. and the hemp and the CBG and CBD rich hemp that we're talking about here. How did you find out about this farm that we're sourcing our hemp from?
So RDSP is a very great group. They focus just on the cultivation aspect of hemp. They don't process. They don't produce any products in-house. All they do is farm, and they are excellent at it. They're hitting for some of the highest numbers as far as terpenoid content. That's the taste and the smell that you associate with any flowering plant, but especially cannabis.
Right, the terpenes?
Yep. They're pushing 2% terpenes on most of their strains. Even on their CBG strain, they're over 1%, which is almost unheard of.
Nice. So that's what we're producing.
Yep. I have an excellent relationship with Dylan and Sean. They're two of the owners. Their father, Rick, is the other owner. And we communicate on a regular basis.
How big is the farm that this is coming from, that we're sourcing all of this hemp from?
It's probably still considered boutique. There are farms out there with thousands and thousands of acres, just as far as the eye can see. A lot of the farms that I work with are under 100 acres, and very few farms have produced much in terms of CBG. Very few farms are devoting much of their acreage to CBG production, but that'll change for this season, and I'm sure all seasons in the future. RDSP specifically, they break up their cultivation over different lots. They have some cute names for them too, like Big Boy. They are going to be expanding their CBG production, and they will be a compliant farm. And while this it may not make sense to very many people as to why they would be taking the risk, there aren't very many farms that are committed to compliance in the same way that RDSP is. They're simply not going to take a chance of giving the industry or American hemp specifically a bad name. So they are very rigid in their interpretation of the compliance guidelines for this growing season and going forward. And like anybody else with real insight into the cannabis plant, they recognize that these CBD numbers are going to be going down. We won't see a 25, 27% CBD strain that is total T compliant for I'm sure quite some time. We have geneticists that are working on it, but a lot of the bigger genetics firms, Altera is doing a lot of good work. I mentioned them in their Panacea strain. They're really focusing on CBG because they're able to get very, very low total T, almost non-detectable total T levels.
Yeah, I like that this is happening where they're figuring out ways to make the THC level even lower and lower. But I do feel like it does need to have some in there. You know what I mean? For that entourage effect. If you're really going for a full spectrum, you want to have that full, every cannabinoid you can get your hands on involved, because they do play well together. Right. You know what I mean? So I'm glad that there's still some in these. And who knows, maybe 2021 will be the year of full legalization, and then, all this shit will go out the window as far as compliance and hot hemp and whatnot.
Right.
It could happen. we don't know yet. All depending on what happens with the the government and whatnot. Hopefully it'll change in the next coming years. It seems like the research is being done now. Like people are really out there like studying this. I mean, it is one of the most studied plants on earth, but it's been so in this country, it's been really hard to do it. Like this country has been really behind the ball as far as all these other countries having access to be able to test and do all these like what do they call it when it's blind studies, placebo effect type of studies and stuff like that. I want to ask you a couple questions about. I'm looking at our COA on the Hawaiian Haze. So because me and our vape guy Anthony were looking at this and we were like, what the hell? So THCA in the Hawaiian Haze, it says 0.8564%. And then it says, to the left of that, it says milligram/gram, whatever, mg/g. I guess that's milligrams per gram or something. This is what I'm trying to learn how to even read these lab reports. So it says THCA 8.564 milligrams per gram. What does that that mean exactly?
So a milligram is just a gram is just 1,000 milligrams. So when you take that milligrams per gram figure, if you were to, it's just basically moving the other number another decimal place, because it's instead of out of 100%, it's out of 1,000 milligrams in a gram. So it's just reporting in another.
So like in our 3.5 gram container of this Hawaiian Haze, how many milligrams of THC is in that? THCA.
For THCA, it'll be the 0.85 0.85% of that figure. So if you're typing into a calculator, it's 0.008 yada yada. So it's I would still consider it negligible. I wouldn't advise ingesting a full spectrum or a flower product if you are drug tested necessarily. I don't think it would cause a failure from a like a work related drug test or something like that. But they make broad spectrum products. You guys carry broad spec as well. So for people concerned with any type of testing, I would say stick with the broad spec until we have some worker protection statutes in place, and tons of states are coming out with them left and right.
This episode of the CBD Source podcast is sponsored by
Catskill Hemp Co. The CBD Source podcast broadcasts from New York's Catskill Mountains, and it's great to finally be able to unveil our own line of CBD and CBG flower. You can purchase Catskill Hemp Co. brand flower at any CBD Source location in New York or Pennsylvania. You can find a CBD Source location nearest you on cbdsourcecenter.com. If you're a proprietor of a retail shop that sells CBD or CBG products and would like to carry Catskill Hemp Co.'s 3 strains of top-shelf smokable hemp flower, Hawaiian Haze, Sour Space Candy, or CBG, you can buy direct from us wholesale by just going to catskillhempco.com and scrolling down on the bottom. Thanks again, gang, for supporting the show.
Hey gang, you're listening to the CBD Source podcast. You'll find links to all of the show's social media, including Cole's personal Instagram, on our website, cbdsourcepodcast.com. CBD gang, we're looking for your weed man van stories. The typical weed man in van has many faces,
Space Cowboy,
Roach,
Filthy Frank,
many names,
Scary Van Dam,
Creepy Casper,
Tired Tanner,
and many different types of vans. But everybody has met him, and everybody has a story. What spliff lord turned you to the dank side? We want to hear about your first experience with the wacky weed, the ganja, Miss Mary Jane. You know, trees, trees, trees. Give the show a call at 1-833-CBD-GANG. Tell us your story in 3 minutes or less, and we might play it on the show. Hell, one day we might animate it for our YouTube page. Yowza, it's dank AF in here. Someone's smoking the good stuff in the studio. We'll spray some Ozium and be right back with more of the CBD Source podcast. Do your ears enjoy listening to the CBD Source podcast, but you wish there was something for your eyes to do? Subscribe to our YouTube page for exclusive video content you can't see with your ears. The CBD Source podcast resumes now.
I will admit I am an avid marijuana user. I swear by it. I have some gastrointestinal issues, and the medicine that they put GI patients on, especially for my condition, are in the category of drugs called immunosuppressants. So I feel those are especially dangerous. I don't like the idea of, risking death with what otherwise would be a minor infection that would, require antibiotics. So, cannabis in general, and especially CBD and THC, they help with some of those symptoms, let's say. And
for you personally, you're saying?
Yes. Yep. And I'm pretty much in remission as a result of my my treatment.
That's
with,
awesome.
Cannabis products.
That's cool.
In terms of CBG and any psychoactive effect, it's considered non-psychotropic. And to be honest with you, I ingest far too much Delta-9 THC to be able to notice. So even if I were to abstain for a month, such that a urinalysis would not detect the metabolite, which is I think it's 11-hydroxynor 9 THC, then I still doubt that CBG would have any psychotropic effect on me, even if it would in a patient that uses less because of my tolerance to cannabinoids in general and psychoactive effects thereof. So I'm probably not the person to ask about feelings of euphoria.
Right.
But I've heard reports from other people. I haven't read any peer-reviewed research on CBG psychotropic effects, but other people tell me that they do feel something from it, and they consider it more of a kind of an uplifting feeling, energized. They describe it in similar terms as sativas that are lower in THC. So it's the jury's not out, but we could very well get tomorrow have a release of a bunch of new studies that contradict everything that was said before. So having a podcast like yours, being able to keep everybody in the loop is I think vitally important moving forward, not just for the industry, but for for really everybody that wants to evaluate a cannabinoid or hemp or a marijuana product for treatment needs.
Well, I can tell you one thing. Yesterday we did an unboxing of all of our different strains here, the CBG and the two CBD strains, and me and a bunch of the crew here smoked a bunch of it, and before that we did a bunch of CBD vapes and all this other stuff. So we were still totally fine to drive. We were still totally like lucid, not fucked up in any way or, stoned, but we were just feeling good and relaxed and chill. I think that we were relaxed because we smoked both of the CBDs before we got to the CBG. Like you're saying, if it's got an uplifting, like a sativa type of effect.
I've heard it described as a sativa type feeling. Yep.
See, we should have went on it first, and then because we went with CBD like most of the day, and then we hit the CBG last, so it had a lot to compete with as far as how much CBD we already had in our systems. But it was a very, very nice taste and very, very chill, like very relaxing, and it felt like it's a different type of thing than CBD, but it really did taste, and like from a smoking perspective, it tasted I would say, I think our consensus was it tasted more like weed than the CBD flowers, but I'm not sure. Like,
I'd agree.
You think so too? It really does taste real, like the real deal. Like I kept saying like, this is good weed, and being like, wait, not weed, no THC involved. So it was cool to experience that. So I'm glad that it's coming to market here, and we're going to be carrying all of our own. We carry other brands too, but like we're carrying our own actual strains of CBG and CBD. So I'm glad we got to talk to you and hear a little bit more about it.
TheCBDGang.com, the official subreddit for fans of the CBD Source podcast. Questions, answers, CBD gangsters, at Karma. That's sweet Karma.
We are talking about minor cannabinoids in this episode, CBG being one of them, one of the major ones we're going to be talking about because, of Catskill Hemp Co.
Yes.
But I also wanted to talk about like THCV, THCP a little bit more, if you know anything else about THCP, because we do want to, I never tried it, but that's something that obviously with the 30 times as strong as Delta 9 THC, that's something that like, is there a way to get it? Who's growing it? How do we get it legally? What do you know about it besides what we've already talked about?
If you have a 1% THCP strain with 0.00% Delta 9 and THCA, it doesn't matter that it's legally hemp. It's going to get you high. You're going to be higher than if you smoke something with 30% THC.
Wow.
And
have you ever gotten your hands on some of that yet? It's like brand new, right? It's kind of, where does it even exist?
It does not. It exists in the lab. So CBGA, the reason I'm focusing on CBGA and the reason I'm working very closely with a company called Altera, and they just gave me the entire East Coast to develop in terms of their genetics, is that the new gold standard will be total THC compliant CBG flower, and also other trace cannabinoids as breeders continue to kind of up the ante and get closer to that 20 or 30% total number. Maintaining 0.3% total THC in a sample, it's almost impossible to break 15% cannabidiol while maintaining compliance with THC, the 0.3% THC limit. If you're growing a CBGA strain, however, that almost doesn't apply. And this company I'm working with is guaranteeing at least 12% CBGA, up to 18%, but non-detectable levels of delta-9 THC and total THC. So they're promising 0.00% total THC. And I'm rocking and rolling with that strain. I must have converted almost 40 farms already that they're in the process of planting and stocking their seed.
We'll be right back and we'll talk more THCP with Bill Russell after this.
What is the worst thing that you've ever eaten, you've ever done for food, to get food while you had the munchies? I'd love to know that.
Oh, that's a great idea. What is the craziest munchies you've ever had? What is the biggest crave you've ever had, and the most disgusting thing you might have resorted to? Like, there's just nothing left in the fridge. You came upon some weed, didn't expect it, and didn't do that shop ahead of time to make sure you had something stocked and ready to go for that munchie crave. What did you end up eating? Because that is an interesting concept. Give us a call, 1-833-CBD-GANG. That's 1-833-CBD-GANG. The numbers are 223-4264. I want to hear from you.
And if you have ever eaten garbage, or I should say food out of the garbage while having the munchies, or any other crazier story, or maybe a story that's not as crazy, just give us a call.
Did you get so high that you ate your dad's 40-year-old Twinkie collection?
No, I did not do that. And that's probably because I don't eat Twinkies. That's probably the only reason.
Did you at home get so high that you found your parents' wedding cake topper in the freezer, thawed that shit out and munched on it because you just had to have that cake?
But if I had one of those spare, just around, I would. I'd be like, sorry, Mom, that's going to just have to be for next anniversary.
Oh, God. I'm defrosting it. You're tough shit, man, and that thing is gone. Did you eat an entire roll of...
cookie dough?
Oh, yeah, just raw cookie dough.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely, that's something a lot of people probably had.
If you went to go make brownies and ate half the batter.
Oh, I bet that's something someone's done, for sure.
Or if you are deciding to eat your leftovers that are about a week old and you're not sure if they're still good, give us a call.
Right. Give us a call. What's the number, Tosh?
1-833-CBD-GANG. That's 1-833-CBD-GANG. Gang's all here. The CBD Gang. Give the show a call at 1-833-223-4264. That's 1-833-CBD-GANG.
So THCP is, we don't know too much about it in terms of who is producing it. I would dare say nobody. In a lab setting, it's probably, it may have something to do with isomerization. I have some contacts in even New York hemp farms that would be much more knowledgeable in these areas, and I'll consult with them and get back to you maybe in a future episode.
Cool.
Devoted to THCP.
Yeah.
Some of these other psychotropic substances. But what I can tell you about it now is that the reason they're saying it's more potent or more psychoactive is because of THCP's affinity with the CB1 receptor. CBD doesn't have a profound affinity for CB1, which is why we consider it non-psychoactive, or one of the reasons. Again, these mechanisms aren't very well understood, but THCP, in terms of the legality thereof, I'd be interested to see the application of the Federal Analog Act to delta-9 THC and analogs. Whether or not the Analog Act could be used to prohibit THCP without a separate law, or whether the exception that's been carved out by the Hemp Act in Congress kind of preempts the field and prevents any the application of other laws, because it does say notwithstanding the Controlled Substances Act, but it I have to read the actual language, so that's kind of up in the air.
What is the Analog Act? What is that?
So the Federal Analog Act was a solution to a problem of the Controlled Substances Act. Chemicals are in a lab, especially if you're halfway decent at it, they're subject to manipulation, and they can be changed chemically, not to the point where they have a profoundly different effect, but to where they are dissimilar enough to not qualify as the same chemical.
Right.
So instead of Congress passing a new law every time somebody changed a drug, which could happen potentially every single day, they just say, hey, if this drug is substantially similar in these ways, and I haven't analyzed the Analog Act yet, and that's on my very, very long list of things to do in terms of cannabis research. I'd be interested to see what how it applies to THCP and THCV and all these other chemicals, because right now we're not even testing for THCP on any of the certificates of analysis. So
THCP and THC, I've tried THCV, but I've never tried THCP. I'm just wondering, so they are actual cannabinoids. They're not like you were just talking about these analogs. It's like you're reminding me of, remember when like K2 and Spice and all those like synthetic marijuanas came out, which are like so bad. And like every time they'd get shut down, they just alter the chemical makeup slightly so to get around the law that is now no longer illegal. I mean, that formula they made originally was no longer legal, so they just like altered it slightly, a teeny bit, and now it was technically not the same thing. Like that's probably what you're talking about with the analog thing. But I'm just wondering with THCP and THCV, they are actual cannabinoids, right? They're not like synthetic spices.
Oh no, they are natural phytocannabinoids. They are produced by the cannabis plant, and they. I don't think they're naturally occurring now in the sense that current strains produce the enzymes necessary to convert it. And again, my understanding is very sophomoric, but if I were to attempt to try to put it into layman's terms, all of these cannabinoids, delta 9 THC, THCV, THCP, my understanding is that they're all pretty much the same, except there's a different number of carbon atoms on a side chain of the actual molecule. I think that CBDV and THCV. I'm trying to remember the terms. I think it's called a veranoid, where it has 3 carbon atoms, and there are a couple of other groups. They actually discovered another THC-like substance, delta 9 THCB, B as in beta.
Right.
And that was in the same study that I read that discussed THCP, St. Peter. And I think the veranoids, like the varins, the THCV, CBDV, I think they had 3 carbon.
Delta 8 THCV is what I tried.
I think that's a veranoid, so it has 3 carbon atoms, and the THCB and CBDB, I think they have 4.
Wow, I've never even heard of the Bs. That's great. What the heck are they?
Cannabidiol is what I have written down.
Okay.
A butyl, I don't really understand the chemical too well. Again, it's on that long list of research that I have to do, but I would do nothing but sit and read scientific research if I could, but there are other demands of my time, of course, and I'm not a researcher anyway. I'll leave that to the big boys, and I'll just try to understand their research as best as I can when they release it.
Right. Well, gang, episode 44, the first time we ever even heard of THC or CBD, as in boy, thanks to Bill. Thank you so much for teaching us that. Now you got me doing research, but that's good because I want to learn about it so then, we can inform the gang who's listening at home. And, eventually we'll all get our hands on this stuff and see what it does to us. Cause, it's one of the beauties of trying out different cannabinoids, is that, like you said, your endocannabinoid system has a high tolerance because you actively are partaking in a lot of THC. So your endocannabinoid system is going to act differently than someone who never touches THC. And everyone has a different endocannabinoid system. Your body reacts differently to these cannabinoids. So it's always fun when new cannabinoids are discovered and then produced in a quantity that we can actually try them and see how they affect us. It is using our bodies as a little chem lab and a guinea pig, to see how it works. But sometimes you're going to find something that actually really benefits you. It's sort of like finding a new vegetable from a different culture that you've never had before, or a new fruit or something, and just realizing, wow, that's my favorite fruit, or that's my favorite vegetable I never knew existed.
Right.
So it's kind of one of those things. You find a new cannabinoid that actually benefits you or helps you, or cures something that we didn't know it cured, or that there was never a cure for, or just fixes something slightly. That's all great stuff. I love when we find these new things that can actually help benefit humanity. So it's always cool when new things are coming into the ether, and I'm learning about new things. So thank you for teaching us, or at least just opening our eyes to the fact that these other minor cannabinoids are just starting to be discovered, and we're just starting to learn about them. So I'm sure we will research this and do further episodes as more comes out about them. But anyway, thank you so much, Will Russell, for coming on the show, CBD Source Podcast, and talking to us about these new strains that not only are we carrying in all of our stores, but we're actually producing ourselves. I think it's really awesome that we finally have our own product, coming to market now. That it's not just one of the great brands that we represent in our shops, but it's a brand that we're actually producing and proud of. And you're the guy, you're the man who helped us locate and build relationships with these farms and everything, and figure out exactly what we're doing. And Doug, the co-owner of Catskill Hemp Co., who is going to be doing these how-to videos with us now, takes trips out there with you and goes to Oregon and looks at the farm and sees the plant as they grow, and you're testing all along and everything. I love that this is all we really know our stuff now. You know what I mean? We've been at this for a while, so it's kind of coming into it with a product after we formed in 2017, and now finally getting our own CBD hemp strains and CBG strains on the market. I think it's great. I'm so psyched about it.
I do as well. And I will say one thing about Doug. One of the reasons I was so excited to get involved with Catskill Hemp Co. and Doug and CBD Source is the commitment that you all have to the educational side of things. And I can't claim to be the best educator, but I hope to open people's eyes and help them make connections that they realize after their eyes are opened have always been there. And one of the things that I'd like to leave you with, maybe to consider another episode, is that the tetrahydroformation, for whatever reason, is more bioavailable for the human body. We absorb it better, and people listening, they could look up. I'm sure a lot of people that take CBD are familiar with turmeric and curcumin, a curcuminoid. Tons of companies are popping up left and right with a new formulation of curcumin, and the acronym is familiar to everybody that's familiar with cannabis because it is tetrahydrocurcuminoids. So THC. It is more bioavailable because it's in that format, and I think it has something to do with the way our DNA is structured in a similar format. And I've been trying to research that avenue. Maybe that's something that you guys could maybe not devote an entire episode to, but could discuss just what's so special about THC and why it's the focus of government prohibition, coupled with the fact that all of these other chemicals are being reformatted basically to that same formation, like THC, tetrahydrocannabinoids are. And maybe prohibition really isn't about keeping people safe, and it's more about keeping people sick, because there is no money in curing disease, or very limited amounts of money anyway. There is so much money to be made in treating a sick person for the rest of their natural born life. I'll leave your viewers with that.
Yeah, I definitely want to check out the link between those two THCs. That's cool. And I agree with you. It is sad, but we are in a country where you do make more money off of sick people sustaining their sickness than just being cured. It's a weird system we've got set up, but I'm sure we do have an international audience, so I'm sure a lot of people out there are like, how the hell does America get by with this bullshit when a lot of these other countries are.
We keep electing the same people. If as a voter, want things to stay exactly the same, keep voting for the same people that have been in office for years. If you want status quo, laws and no reform, keep voting for the status quo candidates.
That's true. Well, Bill, thank you so much for coming on the show. I'm glad we finally got to introduce you to the gang.
Yeah, definitely.
And I'm sure we'll have you back a lot because you really know your stuff, and it was fun talking to you. If you're developing any kind of new things or start researching down an interesting path anytime that you think that would be a cool topic, just make sure to drop me a line and we can talk. All right?
Definitely. And I always throw those types of tips and new stuff toward Doug and Dwayne and a couple of other people in your organization. So I'll definitely stay in touch with you as well. And I hope to be invited back.
All right. Thanks
so much.
Peace.
Bye.
Hi, Anthony Sullivan here for the CBD Source podcast. You've heard the rest. Now listen to the best.
Gang's all here. The CBD Gang. Give the show a call at 1-833-223-4264. That's 1-833-CBD-GANG.
Well, gang, this was a fun and jam-packed episode. So many moving parts came together to make this episode happen, and the whole team here at CBD Source are proud to finally have our own lines of hemp out there in the market. That's literally the best hemp we've ever tried. It's sort of like Larry David and Leon Black on Curb Your Enthusiasm, trying to sample every coffee in town, trying to find a better bean than Mocha Joe. Well, Bill Russell, Doug, and Dwayne traveled the country testing out dozens of different farms' hemp to try to find the best quality strains in the country. And they fucking nailed it. Special thanks to Alyssa Riccio from California Cannabinoids for letting me try her personal stash of Delta 8 THCV. You can follow her on the gram at Journey with Alyssa. Also, big thanks to our professional hemp handler, Bill Russell, for the informative conversation, as well as helping us bring this insanely terp and cannabinoid-rich CBD and CBG flower to market with our Catskill Hemp Co. strains. We're going to try to roll out our YouTube soft launch this coming Monday, the 24th, just ahead of Champs. So we should have 7 small videos up there by the afternoon. If not on Monday, they'll be up by Wednesday, by 4:20. Just in time for us to be giving away some Catskill Hemp Co. CBD flower at our big Wednesday 420 live Hemp Day giveaway on Instagram and Facebook. Make sure to tune in on Instagram Live or Facebook Live at CBD Source Podcast. 4:20 Eastern every Wednesday to win the previous week's prize. All you have to do is answer a question about last week's episode and tell us a little about what you like about the show. We're nominated for 2 awards, Best Cannabis Podcast and Best Cannabis Chef, on LasVegasCannabisAwardsOfficial.com. Please jump on there and vote for us. Make sure to stick around till after the credits to hear the previous week's big winner of Koi CBD products from our last week's Wednesday 420 Hemp Day live giveaway. If you are tuning into our live show this week, I'll CBD you live on Wednesday. And if not, then I'll CBD you next Friday.
Give the show a call at 1-833-223-4264. That's 1-833-CBD-GANG.
CBD Source Podcast is written, produced, and hosted by Cole Cheney. Graphic design, photo, and artwork by Ryan Weber, Johnny D, Kevin Bierfelt, Steve, and Cole Cheney. Marketing by Penny Spinazzola. Special thanks to our resident CBD guru, Akash Patel, our CBD Source Vape Lounge expert, Anthony Maltese, our C-Body Fitness instructor, Danny, our personal Cannabinoids CBD chef, Ryan Weber, our CBD News co-host and vocal artist, Tasha Miller, and our CBD Gang subreddit mod, social media maven, and wrap-up girl Cass. That's me. Additional thanks to Caitlin, Liz, Ryan, and Kevin for lending your vocal talents. Want to be a guest on the show? Or do you have a great Weed Man van story? Or a story about your craziest experience with the munchies? Call us at 1-833-CBD-GANG. Again, that's 1-833-223-4264. And leave a message. If we like your story, we might play it on the show. Visit us on CBDSourcePodcast.com for all your links to social media, YouTube, and our message board, r/CBDGang on Reddit. Be sure to subscribe to the show on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. We'll see you next week.
Podcast or its related social media pages and interactions are for informational purposes only. The CBD Source Podcast does not offer medical advice. Its host, Cole Cheney, is not a medical professional. His experiences with cannabidiol and other cannabinoids are his own and may not affect you the same way. Everybody's endocannabinoid system is different. The statements made regarding CBD products have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. The efficacy of these products and the testimonials made have not been confirmed by FDA-approved research. These products are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. All information presented here is not meant as a substitute for or alternative to information from healthcare practitioners. Please consult your healthcare professional about potential interactions or other possible complications before using any product. The Federal Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act requires this notice.
Do you like or want to try quality, third-party tested CBD? Do you live in the New York, Pennsylvania area? We got you covered, gang. We're growing more each month, so check in with CBDSourceCenter.com to find our addresses and new store locations. While you're there, sign up for our mailing list. We're adding new stores across New York and Pennsylvania all the time. We may soon be expanding to a town near you.
Want to score free CBD? Sign up for Loyal and Save online or on your phone and use it whenever you shop at CBD Source locations. You'll earn points towards free products and other cool merch. Sign up for free at CBDSourcePodcast.com/loyal. You can download the Loyal and Save app on iTunes or Google Play. That's our loyalty app. Call Help designed it. The gang's all here. The CBD gang.
Congratulations to Shane Fogelman for calling into our hotline and winning 4 amazing products by Koi CBD. They're already in the mail, Shane, on the way to your house. Here's the call that won it for him.
Hi, it's Shane Fogelman. Just started listening a couple weeks ago, and I absolutely love the show. Listened last week with the snowboarder. I actually went on YouTube yesterday and watched the video Yeller, but the episode that I like the most so far is the one dealing with ADHD and the benefits from CBD. I myself was diagnosed with ADHD at a young age, and I found that episode very informative and really good. But I really love what you guys are doing. Love the information. Love learning more and more about CBD, and I look forward to listening every week. But thanks very much. Keep up the hard work.
Thank you for listening to the CBD Source Podcast. This is how we CBDo's it.